Chapter 14, A Bond Shattered in Tragedy. As the summer came to an end, Rine and his friends decided to spend one last evening together under the stars. The bond they had forged over years at the academy was strong, but life's challenges had made them all acutely aware of how fleeting such moments could be. The secluded clearing they chose in the Viridian forest was alive with the hum of nocturnal Pokémon. A campfire crackled at its center, surrounded by the laughter and warmth of friends. Amira, as always, sat quietly with her Cleffa in her lap, offering the occasional soft smile as the others recounted exaggerated tales of their adventures. "It's not like I made up the part about Pyroar taking on all those Spearow," Finn protested, his boisterous voice breaking the peaceful air. Kai rolled his eyes, adjusting his glasses. "Next time, keep your story grounded in reality. A flock of 3 Spearow does not constitute all those." Rine chuckled softly as Stardust sharpened its claws on a nearby rock, its shimmering galaxy-like scales glowing faintly in the firelight. Nebula pounced around the edge of the clearing, playfully batting at fireflies. Amira stroked Cleffa's fur, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's nice to feel normal for a while. Like we're just kids again." The moment was broken by a deep, rumbling growl. The firelight flickered as a cold wind swept through the clearing. "The calamity appears." The forest fell silent. No Pokémon rustled in the underbrush, no chirping filled the night air. It was as if the entire forest had been silenced by the presence of something vast and terrible. Rine stood, his hand instinctively resting on Stardust's shoulder. "Something's coming." The ground trembled, and a massive shadow emerged from the treeline. A Rampardos, far larger than normal and radiating a crimson aura, stepped into the clearing. Its glowing red eyes burned with unrestrained fury, and its movements were erratic, as though it were in constant pain. That's not normal," Kai said, his voice trembling. Finn's Pyroar growled low, stepping protectively in front of its trainer. "We've got to stop it before it attacks." "No," Rine said sharply. "We need to get out of here. This isn't a fight we can win." The Rampardos roared, slamming its tail into the ground and sending shockwaves rippling through the clearing. The group scattered as boulders and debris rained down, their Pokémon leaping into action. The desperate fight. "Stardust, use aura-infused dual chop. Aim for its legs," Rine commanded. Stardust darted forward, its claws glowing as it struck the Rampardos' legs. The attacks barely made the beast flinch. It countered with a devastating earthquake, sending Stardust and Nebula sprawling. "Pyroar, flamethrower. Draw its attention," Finn shouted. Pyroar unleashed a stream of flames, striking the Rampardos' side. It turned with a bellow, charging at Pyroar with its glowing head. "Quick attack, EV!" Dara yelled. Her EV darted in, trying to divert the Rampardos' path. Kai's Magnemite added a thunder wave, the electricity crackling against the Rampardos' hide. For a brief moment, the beast slowed, but it shook off the paralysis with a guttural roar. Amira and Cleffa's final stand. The clearing was a chaotic battlefield, the Rampardos looming over them like a living nightmare. Its crimson aura flared wildly, illuminating the carnage it had wrought. Rine's body ached from the relentless onslaught, and the cries of his friends filled the air as they desperately tried to regroup. But it wasn't enough. The Rampardos' glowing red eyes locked onto Amira, who had fallen to her knees amidst the chaos. Cleffa stood before her, the tiny fairy type trembling but determined, its wide eyes fixed on the massive beast as if it could hold back the inevitable. "Cleffa, get back here!" Amira screamed, her voice shrill with panic. She reached out, her trembling fingers brushing the air as Cleffa hopped forward to shield her. The Rampardos growled low, the sound reverberating like a death knell. It lowered its massive head, its jagged crest glowing with a sickening light. The beast scraped its foot against the ground, preparing to charge, its unnatural aura crackling like embers in the darkness. "No!" Rine shouted, staggering to his feet. "Stardust, stop it!" Stardust roared, launching itself toward the Rampardos, but it was too late. The beast charged, its body a blur of destructive power as it barreled toward Amira and Cleffa. "Sing, Cleffa!" Amira's voice cracked with desperation as she clutched the tiny Pokémon's Pokeball in one hand, torn between recalling it and giving it one last chance to fight. Cleffa's soft, melodic cry rang out, its voice trembling but clear. For a fleeting moment, the Rampardos hesitated, its movements faltering as its glowing red eyes dimmed slightly. But the beast roared again, shaking off the effect as if it were a mere annoyance. Its momentum was unstoppable, its massive head glowing brighter as it bore down on them. Cleffa stood firm, its small arms spread wide as if to shield Amira from the full force of the attack. The Rampardos struck with a deafening crash, its head smashed colliding with Cleffa's tiny body. The sound of bones breaking was sickeningly clear in the sudden silence that followed. Cleffa's small form crumpled under the impact, its bright pink fur smeared with dirt and blood as it was flung backward, landing in a motionless heap. The force of the blow sent Amira flying as well, her body tumbling across the ground like a rag doll. She hit a jagged rock with a sickening thud, her head snapping back as blood sprayed across the shattered earth. "No!" Dara screamed, her voice breaking as she clutched her EV, frozen in shock. Rine's legs gave out beneath him, his mind refusing to process the scene before him. Stardust staggered forward, roaring furiously as it slashed at the Rampardos in a futile attempt to drive it back. Amira's body lay limp in the dirt, her pale face streaked with blood. Her chest rose and fell faintly, each shallow breath a struggle as she reached out weakly toward Cleffa's broken form. "Cleffa," her voice was barely a whisper, her hand trembling as her fingers brushed the lifeless fairy-type's fur. The Rampardos roared again, stepping closer as if to finish what it had started. Rine's despair. "Amira!" Rine screamed, dragging himself forward on hands and knees. Stardust moved beside him, its body battered and its golden eyes blazing with fury. Finn knelt beside his Pyroar, his face pale with fear. "We can't stop it. We're not strong enough." Kai's Magnemite sparked weakly as it hovered over its trainer, the metallic Pokémon barely able to keep itself aloft. Dara clutched her EV tightly, her eyes wide and brimming with tears. "We can't let this happen. We have to do something." Rine clenched his fists, his aura flaring wildly around him. He felt the weight of his failure pressing down on him, the crushing realization that he couldn't save Amira, that he had let her down. The Rampardos reared back, preparing to crush both Amira and Cleffa beneath its massive foot. The final blow. Before the Rampardos could strike, a deafening roar echoed through the clearing. Leonhart's Hydreigon descended like a shadow of vengeance, its three heads snarling as it unleashed a devastating dark pulse. The wave of energy slammed into the Rampardos, forcing it back. Leon stepped into the clearing, his gray eyes cold and calculating. "Enough," he said, his voice sharp and commanding. The Rampardos roared in defiance, but Hydreigon was relentless. It unleashed a dragon rush, its massive body colliding with the Rampardos and pinning it to the ground. "Hyper Beam," Leon ordered. Hydreigon's central head opened wide, gathering a sphere of crackling orange energy before firing it directly at the Rampardos' chest. The beast let out one final roar before collapsing, its crimson aura dissipating as it fell unconscious. The battlefield fell silent except for the faint crackling of the campfire, now reduced to embers. Rine crawled to Amira's side, his hands shaking as he reached for her. Stardust knelt beside him, its golden eyes filled with sorrow. "Amira, please," Rine's voice cracked as he gently shook her shoulder. Her head lolled to the side, her eyes half open and unfocused. She let out a faint, rattling breath. "Rine. Cleffa. They." Her words trailed off, her hand slipping from his grasp as the light faded from her eyes. Rine froze, his mind screaming in denial. No, 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 no. Amira, wake up. Please. Dara collapsed to her knees, her sobs breaking the silence. Finn turned away, his fists clenched tightly as tears streamed down his face. Kai's Magnemite let out a mournful hum, its usually bright sparks dimmed. Leon knelt beside Amira, his face grim. She was brave, but this should never have happened. A bond shattered. Rine sat in silence, cradling Amira's lifeless body as Stardust nuzzled her hand. Nebula curled up beside Cleffa, its emerald fur brushing against the still pink form. We failed her, Rine whispered, his voice hollow. I failed her. Leon placed a hand on Rine's shoulder. This wasn't your fault. The Rampardos was beyond anything you could have faced. You fought as best you could. It wasn't enough, Rine said, his tears falling freely. Scars that remain. The group returned to the academy under Leon's escort, their hearts heavy with grief. Amira's death left an indelible mark on them all. Finn grew distant, doubting his ability to protect anyone. Dara stopped battling entirely, her EV refusing to leave her side. Kai became obsessively focused on his Magnemite's training, determined to never feel helpless again. Rine, haunted by the image of Amira's final moments, retreated into his personal realm, spending hours meditating in silence as Stardust and Nebula stayed close. I'll never let this happen again, Rine vowed one night, his voice breaking. No one else will die because I wasn't strong enough. But as the stars shimmered in the sky above, he wondered if his resolve would ever truly be enough to silence the guilt that weighed so heavily on his soul. Chapter 15, Paths Shaped by Shadows. The death of Amira left a gaping wound in the hearts of her friends, a tragedy that no amount of time could ever fully heal. The summer break ended in silence, the group returning to the academy under a cloud of grief and self-doubt. The pain of her loss rippled through their lives, reshaping their paths in ways none of them had anticipated. Rine, the weight of guilt. Rine buried himself in his training, consumed by the belief that he hadn't been strong enough to protect Amira. His once thoughtful, strategic approach to battling became more aggressive, his aura flaring unpredictably during training sessions. Again, Stardust, he shouted one afternoon, his voice echoing in the academy's private battle arena. Stardust, panting heavily, obeyed, its aura-infused dual chop smashing through a series of holographic targets. Professor Kara observed from the sidelines, her sharp gaze narrowing. Rine, that's enough. Stardust is exhausted. Rine ignored her, his aura flickering with frustration. It's not enough. We have to be better. Pushing yourself and your Pokémon to the breaking point won't bring her back, Kara said firmly, stepping forward. Her words hit Rine like a blow. He stopped, his shoulders slumping as Stardust stumbled beside him. Kara placed a hand on his shoulder. You need to process this, Rine. Strength isn't just about power, it's about clarity. You can't carry this guilt forever. But Rine wasn't ready to let go. Every moment of Amira's death replayed in his mind, a constant reminder of what could happen if he failed again. Finn, the quiet burn. Finn's fiery personality dimmed, replaced by a quiet bitterness. He began avoiding his friends, spending most of his time in the academy's wilderness training grounds with Pyroar. One evening, Rine found him sitting alone by a riverbank, his gaze fixed on the rushing water. Finn, Rine began, sitting beside him. You've been distant. Finn didn't look at him. What's the point, Rine? We train, we fight, and for what? So we can watch someone else die. Rine's fists clenched. We train so we can stop it from happening again. Finn shook his head, his voice low and bitter. It wasn't enough last time. It'll never be enough. Despite his doubts, Finn's training with Pyroar grew more intense, but his battles took on a reckless edge. He began throwing himself into dangerous situations, testing his limits as if he had something to prove, or nothing to lose. Dara, retreat into fear. Dara stopped battling altogether. Her EV became her constant companion, refusing to leave her side even in class. She couldn't bring herself to step into a battle arena, the memory of Amira's final moments paralyzing her with fear. One day, Kai found her sitting on the Academy's observation deck, staring out at the horizon with Evie curled in her lap. "You haven't been to training in weeks," Kai said, sitting beside her. Dara stroked Evie's fur, her eyes distant. "Every time I think about battling, I see Amira, and Cleffa, and that monster." Her voice broke. "What if it happens again? What if it's me next time?" Kai hesitated, unsure of how to respond. "It won't happen again. We'll make sure of it." Dara's laugh was hollow. "How can you be so sure?" She withdrew further, focusing on caretaking classes and avoiding combat scenarios. Her fear became a prison, one she didn't know how to escape. Kai, obsessive perfection. Kai's grief manifested as an unrelenting drive for perfection. He threw himself into his studies, dissecting every failure in the Rampardos battle and vowing to ensure no weakness would ever endanger his team again. His Magnemite evolved into a magneton during one of his late-night training sessions, the sparks of its evolution lighting up the darkened lab where Kai spent most of his time. But even this milestone did little to ease the ache of loss. He became colder, his analytical mind focusing entirely on logic and strategy. During one battle simulation, he snapped at Rine for a perceived mistake. "If you hadn't hesitated, we wouldn't have taken damage," Kai said, his voice sharp. Rine glared at him, his aura flaring. "We're supposed to be a team, Kai. This isn't just about numbers." Kai's expression darkened. "Numbers are what win battles. If Amira's plan had been perfect, she'd still be here." The words cut deeper than either of them expected, leaving the air between them heavy with tension. Rine's growing darkness. As the months passed, Rine's obsession with strength began to take a toll on his team. Stardust, ever loyal, pushed itself to keep up with his relentless pace, but its movements grew slower, its galaxy-like scales losing some of their brilliance. Nebula, sensing the shift in Rine's demeanor, became uncharacteristically quiet, its playful energy replaced with wary hesitation. One night, as Rine trained alone in his pocket dimension, Stardust collapsed mid-attack, its chest heaving as it struggled to rise. "Stardust!" Rine rushed to its side, his heart pounding. The fracture looked up at him, its golden eyes dimmed with exhaustion. It nuzzled his hand weakly, as if to reassure him despite its own pain. Rine's hands trembled as he realized what he had done. "I'm sorry," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. "I've pushed you too hard." The memory of Amira's lifeless body haunted him, and he couldn't shake the fear that he would lose Stardust or Nebula the same way. A ray of hope. It was Leon Hart who eventually reached out to the group, inviting them to a private training retreat in a secluded mountain range. The champion, having witnessed the aftermath of their tragedy, understood the depth of their pain and offered his guidance. "You've all lost someone," Leon said during their first session. "And that loss will never leave you. But it doesn't have to define you." The retreat forced them to confront their grief and the scars it left behind. Leon's lessons were grueling, not just physically but emotionally. He pushed them to face their fears, their doubts, and their guilt. For Rine, the retreat became a turning point. One evening, Leon found him meditating by a mountain stream, Stardust and Nebula resting nearby. "You're carrying a heavy burden," Leon said, sitting beside him. Rine didn't look up. "I let her die." Leon's voice was calm but firm. "You didn't let her die. You fought with everything you had. Sometimes, even our best isn't enough, but that doesn't mean we stop trying." Rine looked at his Pokémon, their quiet strength reminding him of the bond they shared. I want to protect them. All of them. But what if I can't? Leon placed a hand on Rine's shoulder. Then you get stronger. Not just in battle, but in heart and mind. That's what it means to be a trainer. As the group returned to the academy after their leave, they were no longer the same. The tragedy had reshaped them, leaving cracks in their spirits but also forging new resolve. Rine vowed to honor Amira's memory by growing stronger, but the darkness of his grief still lingered, threatening to consume him if he wasn't careful. Finn, Kai, and Dara each carried their own scars, their paths diverging as they struggled to reconcile their dreams with the pain of loss. And in the shadows of the Viridian Forest, the presence of more Calamity-level Pokémon loomed, their growing numbers hinting at a greater threat to come. The growing mystery. As the group grappled with their fractured relationships, the mystery of the Calamity-level Pokémon loomed larger. Reports of similar rampages spread across the region, wild Pokémon exhibiting unnatural strength and erratic behavior, their bodies surrounded by a crimson aura. Leon Hart, the champion, reached out to the group, inviting them to join his investigation. Though hesitant, they agreed, knowing that the mystery of these Pokémon was connected to the tragedy they had endured. The first major lead came from a small village near the edge of Mount Silver. The village had been abandoned after a swarm of Calamity-level Fiero attacked, destroying crops and homes. Leon led the group through the desolate streets, his Hydreigon hovering protectively nearby. It's not random, Leon said, his gray eyes scanning the destruction. These Pokémon are being drawn here, for what, I don't know yet. As they investigated, Kai discovered traces of an unfamiliar energy signature in the area. Using his magneton sensors, he traced the source to a collapsed cave on the outskirts of the village. Whatever caused this started here, Kai said, his tone clinical. Rine knelt beside the rubble, his aura flaring faintly as he felt a strange pulse beneath his hand. It's not just energy, he said. It feels alive. Before they could dig further, the ground shook, and the air grew heavy with an oppressive force. A shadow passed over the group, and a massive Calamity-level Gyarados erupted from a nearby river, its crimson aura flaring wildly. Everyone, move! Leon shouted as the Gyarados roared, unleashing a hydro pump that tore through the earth. Rine and Stardust charged forward, the fracture roaring in defiance. Stardust, aura-infused dual chop. Aim for its neck. Stardust leapt, its glowing claws striking the Gyarados' armored hide. The attack barely made it flinch. The Gyarados swung its massive tail, sending Stardust crashing into a boulder. Finn's Pyroar unleashed a flamethrower, but the flames dissipated against the Gyarados' crimson aura. Kai's Magneton fired a thunderbolt, momentarily stunning the beast, but it quickly recovered, its glowing eyes locking onto the group. This isn't working. Dara yelled, clutching EV. Leon stepped forward, his Hydreigon launching a devastating dark pulse that drove the Gyarados back. We can't beat it head-on. We need to retreat, now. Though they managed to escape with Leon's help, the encounter left the group shaken. The Gyarados' overwhelming strength had driven home the severity of the threat they were facing. Back at the academy, Leon gathered them for a debrief. These Pokémon aren't acting naturally. Something, or someone, is influencing them. Do you think it's connected to the energy we found in the cave? Kai asked. Leon nodded. It's possible. I'll need to investigate further, but this is bigger than anything we've faced before. If we don't figure it out soon, more lives will be lost. Chapter 17, 2 years later, Graduation and New Beginnings. 2 years had passed since the harrowing encounter with the Calamity-level Gyarados. Though the scars of that night lingered, Rine and his friends had used the time to grow, not only as trainers but as individuals. The Pokémon Academy's rigorous training, combined with their shared trauma, had forged them into stronger, more capable trainers. Now, standing at the threshold of their graduation, they prepared to leave behind the safety of the academy and step into the vast world of Pokémon, carrying both the weight of their past and the promise of their futures. The graduation ceremony was held in the academy's grand auditorium, a space filled with banners displaying the school's crest. Professors, mentors, and family members filled the seats, their faces glowing with pride as the graduates stood on stage. Rine stood tall, Stardust at his side, its evolved form of Haxorus radiating quiet strength. Nebula perched on his shoulder, the now flourishing Meowscarada playful but vigilant. Finn, Dara, and Kai stood beside him, each with their own Pokémon partners. Pyroar, fully recovered and stronger than ever, stood beside Finn, its mane blazing brightly. Dara's Eevee, now an Umbreon, stayed close to her side, its red eyes sharp and watchful. Kai's Magneton had evolved into a sleek and imposing Magnezone, its metallic sheen glinting in the stage lights. Professor Maple, the Academy's head, stepped forward to address the graduates. Her voice was warm but commanding, her words carrying the weight of responsibility and excitement. "You have all worked tirelessly to reach this day," she began, her eyes sweeping over the graduates. "But graduation is not an end, it is a beginning. The world of Pokémon awaits you, with all its challenges, mysteries, and wonders." She gestured to the audience. "As trainers, you carry the responsibility of not only growing stronger but of contributing to the harmony between humans and Pokémon. Today, you step into that world, equipped with knowledge, skill, and the bonds you formed with your Pokémon." Turning to the graduates, her tone shifted, filled with anticipation. "To help guide you on your path, I am offering you a choice. You may embark on the Kanto League Challenge, continue your studies at the Trainers' University, or forge your own path elsewhere. The choice is yours." Professor Maple detailed the Kanto League Challenge, her words sparking a mix of excitement and nervous energy among the graduates. The Kanto League is divided into 8 major gyms and 16 minor gyms, scattered across the region. Trainers who collect all 8 major badges or all 16 minor badges will qualify for the Indigo League tournament, where you will compete to challenge the Elite Four and, ultimately, the champion. She paused, her gaze sharp. Choosing major or minor badges will affect the league bracket you are placed in. Trainers with major badges will face tougher opponents, while those with minor badges will compete in a broader pool. Your path is yours to decide. Rine exchanged glances with his friends, each of them contemplating the challenge ahead. Professor Maple continued. The League also offers official missions at Pokémon centers and police stations across the region. These missions range from assisting in research to aiding in disaster relief. Completing them will earn you trainer contribution points, which can be used to purchase items, gear, and even Pokémon from the official League market. She raised a hand, a gesture that summoned an assistant carrying a tray of Pokeballs. But before you begin your journey, each of you must make another choice, your first official Pokémon partner as recognized by the League. Professor Maple stepped forward, presenting 3 Pokeballs. For this journey, you will choose one of Kanto's 3 regional starters, Bulbasaur, Charmander, or Squirtle. These Pokémon are deeply attuned to the environment and are ideal companions for trainers embarking on their first league challenge. The room buzzed with energy as graduates began murmuring their choices. Maple silenced the chatter with a gesture. "Take your time. This decision is an important one. Once you've chosen, your partner will join your current team and be registered in the league system." Rine looked down at Stardust and Nebula. Both Pokémon watched the tray of Pokeballs curiously, their trust in his decision palpable. He turned to his friends. "What do you think?" he asked. Finn smirked. "I'm going with Charmander. Can't pass up a fire-type powerhouse." Dara hesitated, her Umbreon nudging her leg. "I think Squirtle. It's steady, and I need a fresh start." Kai adjusted his glasses. Bulbasaur. Its versatility will complement my team's strengths. Rine nodded, taking a deep breath before making his choice. After the ceremony, the group gathered outside the academy gates, their new league-registered starter Pokémon at their sides. Rine's choice, a Squirtle, looked up at him with bright, eager eyes, its shell gleaming in the sunlight. He knelt down, offering a hand. "Welcome to the team," he said softly. The Squirtle chirped in response, already fitting in with Stardust and Nebula. Professor Maple joined them, her expression warm. "You're all ready for this. Whether you pursue major or minor badges, or whether you even finish the league challenge at all, remember that the journey is just as important as the destination." She handed each of them a national Pokédex, the sleek devices humming softly as they activated. These will record all Pokémon you encounter, whether they are known or undiscovered. Use them wisely. As the group prepared to leave, a shadow crossed Maple's face. "One last thing," she said, her tone serious. "The presence of Calamity-level Pokémon has been increasing. We don't know the cause, but it's clear that these events are linked to something much larger. Be careful out there." The mention of the Calamity-level Pokémon sent a chill through the group. Rine's mind flashed back to that night in the Viridian Forest, the sound of Amira's final words echoing in his memory. "We will," Rine said, his voice firm. Finn crossed his arms. "We'll take them down if we have to." Maple nodded. "Good luck. You're going to need it." With their paths set and their teams prepared, Rine and his friends stepped out into the vast world of Kanto. The journey ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges and mysteries, but they carried with them the strength of their bonds and the memory of those they had lost. As Rine looked back at the academy one last time, Stardust and Nebula by his side, he felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. "The world's waiting," he said softly. "And we're ready," Finn replied, his Pyroar roaring in agreement. The group set off, their national Pokédexes in hand and their new league partners at their sides, ready to face whatever lay ahead, even the shadows that threatened to consume them. Chapter 18, Reflections of Strength and Bond. Before setting out on his journey, Rine paused under the shade of a massive oak tree just outside the academy's gates. With the weight of his new responsibilities ahead, he took a moment to reflect on how far he had come. The years of rigorous training, both physical and mental, had honed him into a trainer unlike most. His aura training had not only sharpened his skills but also deepened his connection to his Pokémon. Rine's aura training progression. Over the past 4 years, Rine's aura abilities had evolved significantly. Starting from simple energy projection and synchronization with his Pokémon, he had now reached a mastery level that few could achieve. His progress had been marked by countless hours of meditation, intense battles, and moments of profound emotional growth. Aura cultivation level. Rank, Iron Major Realm, Tier 5, on the cusp of transitioning to Steel Minor Realm. Abilities mastered. Aura Sense, the ability to sense the presence, emotions, and energy of nearby Pokémon and humans. Rine's range has increased to nearly 100 meters, and his sensitivity allows him to detect faint disturbances, such as traces of Calamity-level Pokémon energy. Aura Echo, Rine can synchronize his aura with Stardust, Nebula, or Squirtle to amplify their movements and attacks. This ability creates a faint, shimmering aura around them during battles, increasing their speed and precision. Shield Projection, Rine can generate a defensive aura shield capable of blocking physical and energy-based attacks. The shield lasts up to 10 seconds but is taxing to maintain. Pulse Strike, a short-range burst of aura energy that can disorient enemies. While not particularly powerful, it is an effective way to create an opening in battle. Healing Wave, a passive aura ability that accelerates the natural healing process of minor injuries for his Pokémon. This ability requires Rine to maintain close proximity and concentrate fully. Expansion of Rine's personal subspace. The sanctuary gifted to Rine by Arceus had grown dramatically in size and functionality over the years. What had once been a small, serene space with a crystalline lake had now transformed into a sprawling environment tailored to his team's needs. Features of the subspace. Elemental zones. Lake of Reflection, a shimmering lake at the heart of the space, its waters imbued with restorative properties. Pokémon that train or rest here recover stamina and minor injuries more quickly. Verdant Grove, a lush forest with towering golden-leafed trees and soft, mossy ground. Nebula thrives here, its environment perfect for agility and stealth training. Obsidian Plateau, a rocky, volcanic-like terrain with natural obstacles for strength and endurance exercises. Stardust trains here, honing its raw power and precision. Training grounds. Holographic arenas, Rine can create customizable battle simulations for his team. These simulations range from common wild encounters to high-pressure gym battles. Aura amplification chambers, special zones that intensify the flow of aura energy, allowing Rine and his Pokémon to synchronize more effectively during training. Crops and resources. Berry fields, Rine now cultivates a variety of berries, including Oran, Lepa, Citrus, and Lum berries, ensuring his team has access to high-quality food and recovery items. Mystic herbs, rare plants with aura-imbued properties grow here, used in crafting healing items and enhancing battle stamina. Rine's team statistics and detailed descriptions. Stardust, Haxorus. Type, Dragon. Gender, Male. Level, 57. Nature, Adamant, boosts attack but lowers special attack. Ability, Mold Breaker, ignores the effects of opposing Pokémon's abilities when attacking. Description. Stardust's mutated form sets it apart from other Haxorus. Its sleek, muscular frame is covered in scales that shimmer with a galaxy-like iridescence, appearing to shift and sparkle as if the cosmos were etched into its body. Its tusks, longer and more jagged than normal, glow faintly with a silver sheen during battle. Stardust's golden eyes burn with fierce determination, a reflection of its bond with Rine and its relentless drive to protect its team. Moveset. Aura-infused Dual Chop, signature move, a devastating twin-strike attack enhanced by Rine's aura, capable of breaking through defensive techniques. Dragon Claw. Iron Tail. Earthquake. Outrage. Protect. Quirks, Stardust is fiercely protective of Rine and the team, often stepping in to shield others during dangerous encounters. Despite its intimidating appearance, it shows a softer side around Nebula and Squirtle, occasionally nudging them with its tusks in playful encouragement. Nebula, Meowscarada. Type, Grass/Dark. Gender, Female. Level, 42. Nature, Jolly, boosts speed but lowers special attack. Ability, Overgrow, boosts the power of grass-type moves when in a pinch. Description. Nebula's lithe, agile body is covered in emerald fur that sparkles faintly in the light, as if dusted with stardust. Its mask-like facial markings are darker and more intricate than usual, giving it an air of mystery. The petals of its flower-like collar shimmer with a faint, silvery hue, hinting at its aura-enhanced agility. Its sharp, golden eyes radiate mischief and intelligence. Moveset. Magical Leaf. Shadow Claw. Play Rough. Leech Seed. Night Slash. Acrobatics. Quirks, Nebula is playful but highly tactical, often using its agility to outmaneuver opponents. It enjoys teasing Stardust and Squirtle during downtime, darting in and out of reach with remarkable speed. Squirtle, name TBD. Type, Water. Gender, Male. Level, 20. Nature, Brave, boosts attack but lowers speed. Ability, Torrent, powers up water-type moves when in a pinch. Description. This Squirtle has a slight sheen to its shell, giving it a polished, almost metallic appearance. Its sky-blue skin is marked with faint streaks of darker blue that swirl across its limbs and tail, resembling flowing water. Its eyes are large and expressive, exuding curiosity and an eagerness to prove itself. Moveset: Water Gun, Aqua Tail, Bite, Rapid Spin, Ice Beam, Withdraw. Quirks: Squirtle is energetic and fiercely loyal, often running into situations headfirst without hesitation. Though inexperienced compared to Stardust and Nebula, its determination and bravery make it a vital part of the team. As Rine finished reviewing his progress and his team, he looked at his Pokémon with a renewed sense of purpose. Stardust let out a low rumble of approval, Nebula flicked its tail playfully, and Squirtle chirped excitedly. "We've come a long way," Rine said, his voice steady. "But this is just the beginning." His aura flared faintly, a reminder of the power he had cultivated and the bonds he had forged. With his team by his side and his personal subspace ready to aid them, Rine stepped onto the path ahead, ready to face whatever challenges the world had in store.